What's up, everybody? This is Phil Rogacki.
And I'm Jared Abergina.
You're listening to Two Tree Guys Podcast. What's up, everybody? Phil Rogacki here with another episode of Two Tree Guy Podcast in Asheville, North Carolina at ArborFest 2023. What an awesome show here, guys. If you guys have never been out to an ArborFest, get your ass out here and partake in this. It's super awesome. And if you guys are the first time ever listening to the show, man, we got different episodes that you're going to be listening to. We got our gear talk. We talk about different products, how it was made, why it was made, the purpose of it, safety behind it, the good, the bad of that. So tune into those. We have those weekly. We have our safety talk and our safety flashes where we talk about real life incidents that happen in the industry and how do we have better controls and better things that we can do to prevent those type of things that are happening. We got our mini episodes, our What's Your Story that you're going to listen today. And also too, we got our full length. If you're ever out in California, the door is open. If you need a place to sleep at night, we got a place. Come hang out. Come be on the podcast with us at the Academy in Santa Rosa, California for that. But, and remember, there's a fee for the show. And that fee is pay it forward. Post it. Share it. Nobody's paying us for this. This is all a cost. And all we ask is for you to get it out. If you got something out of it, if you seen value in it, if you learned something, if you laughed, share the show for that. But, we got a gentleman, a legend in the industry. I've heard your name before many times. First time I got to meet him, Kevin Bingham. How are you, my friend?
Good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
Excellent.
welcome here. How's the show been so far for you?
It's been fun. Yeah, I really like this show. It's, I think a difference from the TCIA or some of these bigger shows. You get a little more salt of the earth, people that are just doing
A little bit more personable.
Yeah, it's not necessarily the elite climbers that are here. It's people out actually doing tree work every day.
Yeah.
Some of the people I've met never heard of a rope wrench, so that's always exciting for me to talk to people who are still in a taut line hitch or a Blake's hitch. And I think this show is really reaches a really broad demographic. It's a good, and also as far as trade shows go, you don't see a lot of machinery here. It's all about the climber. It's all about the, and that for me is refreshing coming from the TCIA in November. It was hard to find a climber booth. It's completely been taken over by iron.
Did you go upstairs?
No, I haven't gone upstairs.
No, not here. But
I
it's not
don't
up
see
here.
it upstairs. What are you talking about?
TCIA. Did you go up to the upstairs?
Oh,
TCIA?
yeah.
The next year is going to be even more awesome. So that whole area is all focused on climbing and working the gear and the individuals like that. So
yeah, I think that's the way it needs to be.
Yeah, and I went downstairs at TCIA one time, and I was down there for like 5 minutes, and I was like, I'm gonna go back upstairs.
Yeah, I mean, I think there were some things downstairs, like there was a few brands downstairs that should have been upstairs, and
they were nervous because it was the first time doing it, so they were like, let's see how it goes. But this year or next year in St. Louis, it sold out like that. So everybody wanted to be in there and be able to showcase their gear and be able to use it in the work climb stuff.
Cool.
Which is going to be awesome from that. So this is What's Your Story? So, your story is unique. Your story is different than anybody else out in the world. You've experienced different things in your life that people have never experienced. And this is the time you get to share it and showcase it for that. So love to hear what your story is.
Well, I guess as far as being in a tree climber, an arborist, I lived in Colorado. I grew up Arizona, Colorado, got into rock climbing. At the same time, my grandmother had a garden, and I would hang out with my grandmother in her garden. So I also got a real appreciation for plants and watching things grow. I would say
Where'd she learn that from?
I guess just being a grandmother. I don't know, the 30s somewhere.
Yeah.
But she took a lot of pride in having big, nice tomatoes, and I remember eating raspberries off her raspberry bush, and I would be there during the summer, and she gave me a little corner of her garden where I could plant some seeds and stuff.
What'd you plant?
Beans, I think, because they, pop up real quick.
Yeah. Were you proud of those when they grew?
They probably didn't grow very but it's still fun to go out there and dig around in this dirt. And so I definitely got an appreciation and pleasure out of being outside and around things that grow and that relationship. And I was probably 16, maybe 15. I was avidly rock climbing. I did gymnastics too when I was younger.
Oh, wow.
Soccer, basketball. But just walking home from school one day, I saw some arborists climbing a tree, and wow, that's a job,
Yeah.
And I asked them right then and there, I was like, can I get a job this summer working here? And they're like, well, how old are you? I'm 16. I said, well, come back when you're 18. And I did.
And you remember that for 2 years to come back to this guy.
Yep. He told me his number and everything. Aesthetic Tree Surface in Denver, Colorado.
They still around?
I believe so. I have not touched base with him in a while, but he was a certified arborist. He did things semi the right way. I mean, now I know more. I can look retrospectively, but that was pretty dangerous. But real good dude, and I came back that summer right after graduating high school, and worked. That was my first job doing tree work, and I loved it.
What'd you think when you first came in? And I mean, first day one for
Well, so the first day he asked me to put a quart of oil in the truck, because I took a quart of oil pretty much maybe every week or so, and I put that quart of oil right in the transmission. So it wasn't a good start to the day.
How'd you tell him?
I think somebody caught me like, wait, where are you putting that? I'm like, here. Like, oh shit, oh no. Yeah, we had to drain the whole thing, and it was.
And you're just going, oh, that's my first and last day.
Yeah,
this is it. He kept you. You showed up.
No,
the next day.
I worked the whole summer. And yeah, I loved it. I loved every minute of it. And he knew I was a climber and wanted to climb, so he let me do that a little bit. And actually, the foreman, he was the main climber. He ended up, I remember he was a big dirt biker too. So he was, one weekend he went out dirt biking and jacked himself up pretty good.
So then you had to step in.
So it was like, coming off the bench. Yes.
Put me in, coach.
Put me in, coach. So that was great. But I learned how to tie a taut line hitch and get up in a tree and use a pole saw. He actually, the only real accident I've ever had, well, I've had minor ones, but the only one that required workman's compensation was that summer I cut my pinky off because he had electrical tapes, the dual handles. He put electric tape on the safety up there, and I lopped my pinky off.
Off? How?
Well, not off. They sewed it back on. It was hanging on. It came right through the bone.
Do you have feeling there anymore, or no feeling?
It's very little feeling, and in the cold, it gets
Gets
kind of. It's like when people ask me, "What? Have you ever been injured? This is dangerous work. Have you ever been injured?" Like, well, my pinky. It was, but I think that actually woke me up to, you got to kind of stay awake during this job, even when you're trimming bushes all day. Yeah. Especially when you're trimming bushes all day.
Wow. So then what'd you do after that as you started climbing and stuff? I mean, where was your kind of natural progression that you were going, or what did you see? Like, I need more. My next step. Here's what I need.
So I did go to college in California, and during college I worked at a botanical gardens in Southern California, and I studied environmental. The only thing I could think of I knew pretty much at that point that I wanted to be doing something with trees, and I thought maybe I could be a little more academic about it. But in college, I learned that pretty much all those jobs would require me to be inside. So that, like, the my side job at the botanical gardens, where I basically worked with, I was weeding and pruning and learned about plants, and that actually was more of a educational experience that I got from college than the actual college part.
Gotcha.
And every summer I would work at one summer I worked in New Mexico for a tree service. One summer I worked in Montana at a tree service. So I'd go, I had a group of friends and kind of...
Did you knew this was going to be your career or your profession?
I had a pretty good idea. It was
Do you remember
much,
that moment where you were like, this is it. This is what I want to do?
I mean, I think when I saw that when I was 16, that was actual profession. Also, actually, that's not even true. My uncle, who is actually... I have family out here in Asheville and in Atlanta.
Okay. Yeah.
And when I was probably 8 or 9, my uncle had a neighbor, and I remember his last name, Jenkins. It's with Tree Care International. He's down in Decatur, and he runs a recreational tree climbing. He takes people tree climbing.
Yeah.
And I was a climber. I was into that kind of thing, and my uncle introduced me. I was older. I was probably 12. So,
okay.
But he introduced me to the idea that you could climb trees. Like, that was the thing. And then when I saw the
you actually see, it wasn't just for fun. It was like someone was making money doing it.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't thinking about making money, but
But when you were 16, you someone.
When I was 16, I saw, oh, this is actual career. That's a career path.
Because you thought it was just for fun?
Just
before that?
For fun. And I mean, I climbed trees, I climbed rocks, and I was motivated. The guy in Atlanta, Jenkins, trees climbing is really fun, and there's adults that do it, and people pay me to take them out tree climbing. Mm-hmm. That was like kind of, I think, started the seed a little bit, but I don't really ever remember having any other, except possibly riding horses. So my two things that I've always said, if I could do, what do you want to be when you grow up? Like, I'm a tree climber or a horse rider.
A horse rider.
And I actually did play around with riding horses. I was like, oh, could I do this as a career? And realize that the people that you have to ride that have the money to do horses, they're like pretty horrible crowd. Like, tree people are so much better.
Yeah.
And I think that was...
You still ride horses? No?
Not really.
Not really.
I mean, that's a hard thing to...
Yeah, it's expensive. It's expensive.
But
so
I like being with animals. I like animals. I like trees. And, I like being outside. And so I think those have been my driving factors. What can I do to work with nature, be outside, and have fun?
Yeah.
And
use
my body.
Are you still having fun?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I think the tree industry, the tree business, I never really wanted to be a business owner or anything like that. So I think there's been a lot of not so fun. I have
experiences,
some tension from trying to run a business. Yeah. And I didn't sign up for it. I just want to climb trees. And right now, actually, I'm in a pretty good situation with my tree. I have a small tree service in Detroit, and
well, let's back up a little bit.
Okay.
So, when you were at the Botanical Garden in LA, where was your next move after that?
So my next move after that was here in Nashville.
Okay.
And I moved out here. I was here for a year after graduating college. And I got a job with Appalachian arborists. This guy, Will Blosen, who just an incredible, inspirational. This guy, he worked really hard, and then on the weekends, his passion was big tree hunting. So he would go out and this is the epicenter of big trees on the East Coast. So if you're gonna go look for big trees, it's here. The Smokies, all the way down to South Carolina.
Got it.
But any big trees on the East Coast are here, and every weekend he'd go out and he'd be like, I remember I went to his house with my girlfriend. They invited us over for dinner, and like we eat dinner, and then sort of sitting around afterwards. And he's like, "So you want to watch a tree video?" And like he pulls out a VCR, and like, we start watching tree videos with my girlfriend, and he's like, "What the hell?" But you know, like that kind of passion was. I loved it. You know, like, let's watch a tree video.
That's awesome. Let's do it. Your girlfriend's like, fuck.
What did I do? What am I doing here?
Is she still your girlfriend?
No.
Well, that's right.
No,
She didn't like the tree video. She
didn't-
got rid of her.
didn't like the tree video.
You dumped her right after that.
Yeah. Well, she actually ended up getting a job in Detroit.
Uh-huh.
And then we moved up to Detroit shortly after there. But then she was from Chicago, and she ended up moving back to Chicago. I ended up staying in Detroit.
Okay.
That was 20 years ago.
Okay.
So
Well, see, you needed her to take you to Detroit,
she needed
right?
me. That's how I ended up in
Yeah.
Detroit. Everybody's like, "How did you end up in Detroit? Like, what in the hell?"
Yeah.
Like, I'm glad I love it up there.
Dude,
But,
good.
It was a girl.
You went there for a girl. That's usually how it goes. Why'd you move there? Oh, girl. She was still around? No. No.
We're like, the lakes,
The Four Seasons, and it's beautiful up there in the fall.
I do love the snow. Michigan is. I've really learned to love Michigan.
Yeah,
Detroit,
Michigan's
so
beautiful.
it's
Beautiful
got-
state, man.
It is a beautiful state.
Beautiful state.
And
There's
Detroit's
some
a really cool city. Like I've been to other cities, and like the freedom you have in Detroit and the people there, and I don't know. It's a real good city. I'm all about Detroit now.
I like Detroit. I do too. I mean, we'd go up there for a Tigers game. We'd go over to Windsor and we'd go eat at, it's called the Tunnel Barbecue. I don't think it's there anymore, but they're some of the best ribs in North America. And we'd go there and watch a Tigers game. It was just cool.
Yeah. I mean, it's not aesthetically the most beautiful city in the world,
No.
but it's got its little gems.
You can buy like a 15-bedroom mansion there for like, I think they give it away for free in some areas up there.
Not so much anymore.
No.
It's been a minute since you could do that, but I'm still like, my parents are down here in Nashville, so
Yeah.
I look on, try to see what you could buy for a house. I've got my wife and 3 kids now, and we
Yeah.
have a beautiful house in Detroit that we got for $35,000.
Oh my gosh.
And like, so that's sort of like, I'm thinking, my house is like less than a pickup truck. You can't, you can't do that anymore
Yeah.
either there. But you look at a house down here, and it's like $1 million for a.
It's crazy.
I'm like, I guess I'm not going to be moving anywhere near my parents anytime soon.
No, it's crazy. It's crazy.
But
So going to Detroit, what'd you start doing in Detroit? Did you start working with a company?
so when I moved up there, it was the middle of winter, and so I interviewed around for a few places, and I said, yeah, check us out in the spring, summer, and ended up waiting tables for a while. So probably 6 months I was waiting tables, and then I got a job at a small tree service. I got a job at a larger tree service, but I chose the smaller tree service because the guy seemed like really into trees.
Yeah.
And I learned a hell of a lot from him too. Like, horrible business owner, but super. I think this often is hand in hand, but and not so much of a climber, but he understood trees and biology, and like he really. I learned a lot from him. I worked with him for several years.
Cool.
Then started kind of, I think, as I'm discovering now, as I hire people, like you start becoming a good climber, and then you're like, you know what, I'm gonna do this on my own. So I did that. Like, my climbing at that point had gotten pretty good. I started going to the competitions, and so I think, 2000. I moved to Detroit in 2001, and then by 2005 I started my own little contracting. Started contracting, and then as I got my own clientele, started doing my own tree service.
When was that?
In 2005.
2005. You started
and
your own
probably
company.
till 2005. It wasn't till I got married in 2012 that it actually, you could call it a real company, you know,
Okay.
because all I needed was like beer money and, you know,
You were good.
I was good.
But
like,
in 2012, you had somebody else. You were
Yeah.
starting a family.
starting a family, and
You needed to make some money to pay
I
the
needed to make
bills.
some money, and she came on board and was like, wait, what's going on here? Like, how much do you owe in taxes? Wait.
Oh, shit. So she was your first accountant.
She was the first person to like actually looked at my books. And
Yeah, like,
said, "Hey,
you
you know
ain't
what?
doing
I
this."
don't think this is working. Like, you don't know what you're doing." And
You were like, I learned it from that last guy who was really good in biology but didn't know anything about business.
exactly. And so she came on board and kind of made it more serious.
Yeah.
So I would say the real start of Singing Tree, like Singing Tree as a company has existed.
That's your company, Singing
yeah,
Tree?
Yep. That existed since like 2006 or 7. And you know, I was working my ass off, but when I get a little money, then I, you know, go to a tree climbing competition somewhere
And spend it all.
spend it all, and it was nice.
Yeah.
You know, had a load handler in the back of a pickup truck. Well, actually, I even going reversing. When I first went out, I had this idea that I was gonna have a bike-based tree service. So
A what?
A bike-based.
A bike.
So I bought a little tiny chipper and carried it around on a trailer, and you know, I was pretty thinking that I could get away from cars and machines, and you know, I
Yeah.
loved everything about tree work except all the machines and all the
That's
trucks.
why you're not as big as fan of TCIA.
Yeah, like I mean, I have a 18-inch chipper now, but I hate it. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to chip in that thing. It was like somebody else deal with that. But yeah, my first setup was like, I'm gonna do this on a bike.
Yeah.
And then that I ended up getting I bought a 6-inch chipper off of Tree Buzz.
Okay.
And I hauled it around. I had a Volkswagen diesel pickup truck, which is basically a rabbit pickup truck. So I tow that, and you know, I was chipping in people's yards.
Yeah.
And then I got a F-150. That was before that. So I had that rabbit. I converted it to biodiesel, and then I got it was an Oldsmobile pickup truck.
Okay.
It had a diesel engine in it, and I converted it to vegetable oil. But in the process of converting it to vegetable oil, and apparently this truck sucks. Like, there's a reason why you never hear of Oldsmobile diesel
Yeah.
pickup trucks, because it was like a horrible.
suck.
Yeah. It was a Chevy truck with an Oldsmobile diesel engine in it.
You got it.
And I converted it to vegetable oil and totally screwed up the process. And what really killed it is I lost a dipstick somewhere along the line, so I didn't know how much oil was in it.
You would then you started just putting it in the transmission.
Yeah, I just put it in the transmission.
It doesn't matter.
But yeah, I learned quickly that I did not want to be a biodiesel. That making biodiesel is horrible. Like, any job in the world you don't want is making
It's that one.
biodiesel. Like, I was that was a period of my life I did not have a girlfriend, and you're not getting a girlfriend if you're making biodiesel. Like, I was literally going into people's grease traps and getting grease out of their grease traps, and then mixing it with heavy chemicals
Oh
to
gosh.
make biodiesel, and like, I stunk. It was horrible. But
Oh,
it was interesting. I learned a lot, but I definitely like, screw that.
yeah.
It sort of progressed. I ended up getting a F-150. Got a load handler. You know, you crank it out on the conveyor belt. And then I got a easy dumper. And then I got a 12-inch chipper. And then I got a little Isuzu cab over.
Yeah.
And so it's sort of one thing I've always tried to not be in debt at all. So none of these purchases
It's
all kind of as little debt as possible. You know, like, if I can do it quickly.
because you're trying to pay back all those taxes.
all those taxes. But yeah,
So then from there, where'd you go? Started your own company. You're building it. When did you get your first employee?
2007.
Yeah.
Yep. I had my neighbor, Gilbert.
Does he still work with you?
No, unfortunately, he was older and he ended up getting dementia.
Oh man.
So he's now in a old person's home.
Yeah.
But an incredible person. Like, just
You ever go visit him?
Occasionally, he rides his bike regularly and he comes by my house, and so I talk to him. But it's one of those things where the conversation, you're talking to somebody with dementia, it's really it's hard.
I used to work in a dementia unit in a nursing home.
Really?
From that, so it's one day you're their son, one day they know you, one day it's tough.
He still remembers me and he knows my name, but
That's
it's like,
good.
and he's still able to. He's got this routine. He goes up to Trader Joe's on his bike and then buys things and then goes home. And he was an incredible person. Like a chef, had done everything. He ended up moving next door to me after his divorce. He didn't know what he was doing. He didn't really care anymore. And he's just all around good dude. So he's worked with me.
So where's your company now? Where's it going?
Well, right now, it's in a pretty good spot. I've got 3 excellent guys that work with me. I've got a guy who does all the sales. Another thing, I like talking to people about trees, but the sales part of it, I always screwed that up. Like, I never felt good about. I always felt like I was ripping somebody off or I was ripping myself off. And I just could never really get a hang of the selling. So my wife quit the company. She said, to hell with this. And she went back to school. So she's gone back to school. So we've got a guy doing sales. We've got a wonderful woman in the office. I've got a woman who works 2 days a week, another guy that works 2 days a week, and then 2 guys that are full-time. So we always have a 3-man crew.
Nice.
We hire contract climbers, and I'm basically a contract climber now.
Okay.
So,
so if anybody's out there, I mean, how do they get in contact with you if they're?
Well, usually they look on the schedule and be like, "Oh, we don't have a contract climber. We're gonna need you this day."
Okay. But if say somebody out there wants to come work with you, how do they? If they're coming up to Detroit, they live up there. How do they get in contact you to maybe be on that list? Or
I mean, we love people coming through. We've had, I really like contract climbers, and at first it was sort of like, I really want to have a super climber who can take my job.
Yeah.
But now I feel like a super climber who wants to be an employee is kind of a unicorn.
Mm-hmm.
So having these guys come through, and we've got 3 really competent people that are there every day, and they can we got a little spider lift.
How you like that?
I hate it.
Oh yeah, you hate all mechanical.
No, I'm not going up in that thing. It's fucking. Excuse my language.
No, you can cuss on here. It doesn't
all
matter.
right, yeah, no, that thing sketches me out. But it's actually really great because, if I go out on the crew, I'm always trying to race it.
Yeah, I could beat that.
I can beat
it's
it.
like, you ever watch The Office? You ever watch the show The Office when Dwight and they had like the online computer salesperson that was selling everything, and Dwight, he wanted to beat him. Like, I can outbeat any mechanical equipment out there. It's like kind of like you here. I'll out climb that. I'll beat that. I'll chip faster than that.
Yeah. No, I like. If things go well, my throw line game is on. I can hang.
Okay.
But it's like you have a competent, smart, intelligent person with a spider lift, and they can accomplish so much. And there's a lot that they can't get to, but it's it is a game changer for having a tree service that we can fulfill the demand that people have without having like
you got to compete against everybody else out there. And so anybody listening to this, if you guys want to work for Kevin, where do they just go on their website? They contact you?
Yeah, just call us up and tell us when you're coming.
Singing Tree, Detroit. Detroit.
Yeah, it's fun to have people come through, and
I bet.
We had this guy working with us for the last couple of years. He just ended up moving to Arizona, and he was as a contract climber, so he was working with us, a few days a week, every other week or so, and that was kind of a loss. Oh man, going to California. Why does everybody got to go
No,
to California?
Arizona. You went
Oh,
to
Arizona.
Arizona.
No, he's actually he's Arizona, and he's out at doing the
Shaver Lake.
Shaver Lake up
Okay.
in that area.
Okay, cool.
So
Cool.
He
What
goes
company is he working for?
I couldn't tell you. Bill Burley.
Bill knows?
Bill's good friends with him too.
Oh, okay. Do you go work for Mulberry's?
It's possible.
Yeah.
That sounds about right.
Because that's where Bill worked for that.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
so
That sounds right.
you know, some of the listeners out there, what's some wisdom you can share? What's some things you can share to the industry, people that are going through hard times, good times, you know, driving their truck today, going to work, you know, ending their week, whatever time they're listening to, what's some tips from the top, some wisdom you can really share with everybody? Oh man, yeah. If you guys can hear this in the background, we're at a trade show and they just totally interrupted the most wisdom we've ever got on this entire show.
Well, give me some time to think.
Yeah.
Well, probably if you're already listening to this podcast, you're on the right track. I mean, that's the biggest advice that I can do is just like keep on learning, because otherwise it gets boring, you know, and you might assume that you know everything and that you got it all, like, because you can go out there and work every day and get it done, but the amount of knowledge to learn is endless. Like, and don't be afraid to burn up some time learning it too. Everything I always tell my guys, like, I would rather you spend time learning how to do it than try to rush the way you know you can get it done that way. Like,
Yeah.
set up the rigging, you know, so let's do some
Yeah.
span rigging, let's run a trolley system, let's play around, you're gonna getting into that mindset of, you know, time is money, but even more important is knowledge and you're not going to get knowledge unless you play, and you're not going to get knowledge unless you experiment and learn when not to do something. You know,
Yeah.
you can't know when to do something if you don't know when not to do it too. So, I mean, I remember working for a company and getting reamed out for trying to set up a zip line, and it was the first time. This was, you know, first time I'd set up a zip line, so I didn't really know what I was doing. And I mean, I killed that job for my poor boss. Like, I would have been pissed too.
But you were prepared for the next 50.
Well, yeah. I mean, the next time I went to go do a zip line, it was
Did you make up from the last job?
oh, absolutely.
And then the next one you made up again.
even more
So-
so don't be afraid to, like, yeah, you're gonna, you know, especially obviously you gotta make your boss happy, you gotta meet the requirements, but like, and to the bosses out there too, like, make sure there's room to
Yeah.
grow. You know, if you're stuck doing the same thing every time, and you know, I play around with my saddle all the time. I change things up. I see something on YouTube. Oh, I'm gonna try that out. Maybe it works. Maybe it doesn't work. But you can't just look at something, even though it might look just ridiculous and like, who needs all that stupid stuff? Like, probably you don't need it, but you should try it. 'Cause
Yeah.
you might get something out of it. So I think that's really and it keeps it interesting. Like, the worst thing about any job is when it gets old and gets boring. And you don't need to let that happen. And I mean, that's completely up to you. Just keeping it exciting, keep it fresh. Even going to seminars that you've heard 1,000 times, guarantee there's one thing in that seminar that you're gonna pick up
pull
and
out.
be like,
So it's one nugget, one little
and that
nugget.
nugget's gonna pay off in the long run.
Absolutely. Could save your life, make you more money, save someone else's life. You know, you never know.
And that nugget might have been in the last seminar you went to, but you had picked up another nugget, and there
Yep.
wasn't room for that nugget
Yep.
this time around. So you might
Exactly.
have heard it 3 or 4 times, and sometimes you need to hear it 3 or 4 times
Yeah.
before you're like, I remember, this is one of my latest new things is Doug Talkchalk had shown this to me 6 or 7 times of a splice on the end of his rope to not a life support splice, but simply a splice using the sheath to be able to pull it through a crotch. And I was like, who needs to do all that? I'll just pile hitch it or do whatever. But then I was like, you know what, I'm gonna try it. And a game changer for me. Now all my ropes, I gotta have that, little sheath splice in
Yeah.
there with a little eye. I can put my throw line through there. Don't have to worry about pulling it through a tight crotch or past that sucker.
Cool.
It'll go right through a zigzag or the rope runner, and you
Yeah.
know, it's not for life support. All it does is just to pull your line around, and it's easy to do. So, but it took me, 8 or
Yeah.
9 times to look at it and be like, that's stupid. Why am I going to do that? I'm like, finally, you know what? I'm gonna try that. Oh wow, this is sweet.
And then you took your own medicine. Like, okay, I got to try this. Let's see. Let me learn. And you did. And
Yeah.
it paid off.
Yeah.
It paid off. That's good. That's good, man. Well, guys, there's a lot of nuggets in this talk today, and especially at the end for that. But Kevin's going to be coming out to California.
Oh, for sure. No, Jared's been.
You're gonna spend some time
okay.
with us. We're gonna get you in the studio. We're gonna have a full length episode. We're gonna
And from what I understand, you're gonna take me bass fishing.
Oh, you're a bass fisherman?
I mean, I like to fish.
Oh,
but-
we're gonna take you fishing. The best bass lake in the country, Clear Lake. We'll catch some 5-10 pounders out there. Man, right now is the time. I mean, they're killing them out there on the lake because this
fun.
is right before they go into spawn. So all the big mamas start eating
for sure. It's so fun.
eating to go get on those beds right now. So they're just biting everything you throw in the water, and you catch 5 fish, and you may have a 40 to 50 pound bag. That's how big these bass are there. So.
Oh, geez.
But don't, this ain't a bass talk. I'll get on it and a whole nother thing. But I appreciate you being on the show. Appreciate you
Yep.
sharing your
Thank
story
you.
and some of the experiences you had out there. And guys, listen, if you got something out of this, if you learned something, if you enjoyed this, just share it. Put it out there. Other people want to hear this. They don't know that maybe the podcasts exist. We got a pretty big industry, and there's a lot of other people that need to hear things like this. So that's all we ask. If you listen to it and you listen to the end, you're listening to it right now, and you don't share it, you're a jerk. So don't be a jerk. Please share it. Appreciate you guys that do share and listen to the show. But we're